Can go again.
There we go. Hi, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today for our Scan Superiority webinar. So today we've got Caesar, who will be running the session, and he's our Senior Applications Engineer here at Coric Group. And we've also got Rob Judge as well, who is our Regional Sales Director in the Southwest. So just before we get started on this webinar today, I've just got a few things to run by. So if you've got any questions at all during the webinar, please feel free to leave them in the question box in the bottom right corner. And Caesar or Rob will answer them either at the end of the webinar or after, just depending on time. And also pay attention for our quiz today during the webinar, as the first 2 people to return the quiz with over 80% of answers correct will be offered a 1-week hire of the X7 for absolutely free. And everyone else who has joined our webinar today will receive 15% off their first hire scan. So yeah, that's all from me, I think. Caesar, it's over to you.
Okay, no, thank you. Hey, good morning, everyone. Again, could I please just kindly ask any one of you, just make sure that the sound and the image is going okay? Just say yes on the chat box, please, for me. Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much. So we'll get going. Hopefully this will be a fresh presentation for you guys. Terminal advantage. So first, I will discuss a bit about Coric as a group. Our mission is actually not to sell survey kits. Our mission is to measure, map, and manage the natural and built environments. So across the business areas, this is our focus. And I will leave you with a short minute video just explain what our brand mission
an amazing solution is. With the local knowledge and skill of our teams, the results can be transformational, giving you the confidence to know that you haven't missed a single element, delivering accuracy down to the millimeter, establishing a single source of truth, projecting your vision into the real world, giving you back precious time, and keeping your projects on track. That's Coric. We're always looking for ways to empower you. We supply world-leading solutions to help you measure, map, and manage the natural and built environment, and leverage our in-house expertise to create end-to-end workflows built around your needs, providing you the perfect solution that transforms outcomes and improves safety, while reducing costs and environmental impacts. Coric. We bring certainty to your decision-making.
Cool. Speaking of our customers, this is the reason why they buy from us. We actually did a bit of internal research with our customers and found out that these are the main 5 reasons why people buy from Coric, because we're transparent, reliable, understanding, supportive, and timely. Legacy-wise, actually, Trimble has been in the laser scanning business for about 30 years now. We actually deployed the first commercially available scanner, which was a Soizik S25. And I've been assured that it was able to capture a staggering 100 points per second back in 1992. But really, the story here was things were very manual at the time, really complicated to work. And you can see over time, things just became more automated, more processing power, and just becomes easier and easier to scan as you go along, but still maintaining accuracy and reliability over time. So yeah, over 30 years of experience in scanning, which translates to the latest or the most up-to-date portfolio that Trimble has to offer in terms of those 4 devices, which I'm sure some of you might recognize. But really for this presentation, we want to focus a bit more on these features that I will discuss a bit more in depth, from the auto registration to the fastest fill to finish workflow, specifically with the X9 and the X7 products. Before I do, I want to try and tell a little story about workflows. We as customers, generally speaking, we are flooded with a lot of data, a lot of noise on the internet. our brains, they tend to then try and make sense of it. So we tend to sort things out into categories that make sense to our brains. So this can be applied to any area. In the business area, for example, in sales, the visually representation of data comes in the form of graphs, profit and losses, activity, visits, turnover, that sort of thing. But even in sales, then we usually have to explain what's going on in the background with the story. It's no different than what we do generally with customers. We capture things and then we'll deliver something to our customers to explain what is going on with our survey, with our construction project, with whatever it is. Translating that specifically in the scanning world, this is currently the situation. We have a number of different products, different manufacturers, different data sheets, and the data sheets don't really tell the story of what's going on in the workflow because they don't really relate like for like in specifications of what's going on between different manufacturers. They are difficult to understand, they're difficult to categorize. And again, they don't really tell what's the workflow, where it is in it for the customer ultimately. So I'll give you a nice example on this. So the X7 and X9 actually have for me, I think from a survey perspective, is one of the most important things. They have a self-grade, self-leveling feature on them. Whereas they can level every single scan to an accuracy of 3 seconds of arc. Now, what does that mean? If you see on the left, if you're scanning a building 10 meters high, you tend to have 0.1 of a mil of a difference from the scan data. And over horizontal distance, that difference can stretch all the way up to 0.3 of a mil. This webinar will be different because I am doing a bit of comparison to some of our closest competitors. If I'm allowed to do a Formula One reference, this is what the grid looks like with the X7, the X9, the bigger one, and the little one. I'll try and be gentle and funny about it. Even though people who know me, I'm not nearly as funny as I think I am, but I will definitely make an effort to do so. So if you take the information which is available for us, the leveling accuracy on all 3 of those devices, they actually vary massively, which then translates to massive differences when you're scanning over distance, both horizontal and vertical. This is what I'm referring to. We're going to present the data visually over a table. But if you try and get it based off a story, this is again is a small little video which our lovely marketing team developed for us. Here it will do a representation over horizontal distance. How far off level can your data be if you don't do anything about it with other scanners? Whereas with the X7 and the X9, because of the self-leveling feature, the data will effectively be perfectly level all the times. And again, not trying to be massively funny, but this is what your data, and this is actually the customer feedback that we sometimes get over horizontal distance or over buildings. This is what can potentially happen to your data if you don't do anything to try and correct it. Now, what does that correction actually looks like? We've all been like me in this business for many, many years. We know that to ensure control over our data, we need to bring in external control to basically fix the level data. Now, one of the conversations that has been happening more and more often is in the industry tends to be very, very good at assigning a pound figure to the time that it takes to capture things on site. They don't actually tend to do the same in terms of office-based processing time, to register things, to fix things when they're not correct, to export things. It's almost like the office processing time costs nothing, but that's not actually true for us. It's the workflow. So the workflow needs to combine the time that it takes to also bring a different instrument to capture data, to apply control, and to fix things. Whereas with the Trimble portfolio, you have the option of doing everything whilst on site, as do mean as an option. Most of our customers opted by this workflow, and you can control your costs and productivity that way. But if you want to choose a different workflow, we will support that as well. Case in point. I'm going to hit this to run, this little video. So this is the X9 scanner. in the hands of the lovely Melvin Penwell, which is our laser scanning expert. And I've asked him to do a little video showing that the fastest, quote unquote, scan that the X9 can do is 50 seconds without images. But those 50 seconds actually include the self-leveling to 6 seconds of accuracy and the auto-calibration feature, to which I will discuss a bit more in depth, but the scanner is actually checking the part itself to make sure it's providing correct data every single time. Not my joke, that's Melvin's, but Melvin decided to get in there a little dinosaur from his kid, just for scale, which I thought it was hilarious. So when I say this scan actually takes 50 seconds, that includes a lot of additional things that the scanner is doing as to not compromise speed over accuracy. And it's actually realistically for 50 seconds. I would invite people with other scanners to understand, get a timer out, is actually the speed that says on the screen the same that you get on the in reality. As a surveyor, I am a surveyor, it's really important to understand that the kit is working correctly. I know some of you might have heard this sales pitch before that says the X7, the X9, because it self-calibrates, it avoids the yearly visits to the factory to be calibrated and checked, which is true. But for me, it actually does something else. It's like taking your car to be serviced every time, or just before every time you use the car. Because every time with these devices, it will check the angles, it will check the range measurements as well, and if they're not entirely correct, it will do an adjustment based off the readings that it takes of the pressure and temperature to apply the appropriate range and angle corrections. So that ensures it's working correctly every time you use it, and not just once a year when it comes back from the factory, from that calibration, which other scanners will do, including our own, like the X12 and previously the TX8. So this is a huge thing for us. Plus, it will also help with personal liability against PI. Ensures that the data that you're delivering, which is effectively your customer's data because he's paying for it, is correct. The scanner is working correctly, and you'll be able to generate a report on site calibration every time that you want, every time you use it, and again, not just once a year. We are quite unique in this feature because we have the X7 and the X9 and the X12, although the X12 can't georeference things on site because it doesn't have a laser pointer, but the X7 and the X9 are effectively the only scanners that will fully register and refine, in a least square sense, colorize and georeference and export data, all on a Trimble developed and supported tablet. And again, with the exception of the X12, which you can't georeference directly on site. I would like a laser pointer, but we'll get to that later on. It was also brought to my attention that I think as a member of the CISES, I need to do my part here in explaining sometimes that scan speed and scan rate are actually two separate things. So the scan rate on our scanners, as they are in other scanners, they represent how many points per second can the scanner actually get. They don't actually always capture to that level of rate, but it's as far as they can go. And you can see that there's a massive spread in our devices. In case in point, if we choose a mid-resolution across all those devices, you can see that actually, in terms of timing, they don't actually vary that much. They're basically the same. Why is that the case? It varies on the range of the scanners, how fast the mirror rotates, how far away they're measuring, what's the noise level that you're measuring to, what sort of reflection is the surface, how quickly is the laser actually bouncing back from the surface that is aiming to. So this depends on a massive number of different things. So realistically, the point that I'm making is it's the story that Sheldon does in terms of workflow. It's not what you read on data sheets. It's a workflow that you have with your product. It's what you're doing with it. Let me give you an example. So the SX12, so our Vaulting One scanning total stations, is actually from within our portfolio. It's actually the quickest instrument at 27,000 points scan rate that enables you to actually capture a point cloud. I would say register, but it's actually more in terms of traversing the traditional sense because you can traverse your way through a site and capture things as you go along. but you can actually do a volume computation directly on the tablet. This will give you a result, and you can generate a report from it. Now, obviously, a lot of people, and I would support that, will prefer to do a volume computation from the office because it will give you the opportunity to create break lines, control the surface, which obviously is has a bit of it's more accurate. I'm not gonna lie, but it doesn't change the nature of the fact that in terms of workflow, this is the fastest way to get a result if you want to. The X7 and the X9 cannot do it this fast, and it doesn't matter what the scan rate is. This one is still the fastest. So it's always about the workflow. It's always about what you're doing with the products. To start to finish, what's the quickest way to get a result? Now, this is actually a pro tip from some of our customers. The X7 and X9, they actually have that built-in a laser pointer that you can use to take measurements. And usually, when it first got launched, we would say that this laser pointer is used to shoot targets, measure those targets with the turtle station or GPS, and georeference your scan points. Now, you can do something else with it as well. You can use it almost as a replacement of the turtle station. So if you want to measure those points which are, let's say, underneath grass over pathway, which you're not going to be able to pick up on the scan data, you can just shoot it, add a feature, a code under the annotations field. Here I'm giving the example of a fire hydrant. It can be anything. It can be a manhole, so you can shoot a manhole on a single point. That coordinate will get translated to your office software of choice, and then you have that coordinate to work with a feature code. You can add in the depth, the depth for that manhole, and that's saving you the time of bringing turtle station out or a GPS to do that work, all within the same device on a very unique feature. Shout out for Frontier Precision in Australia for me borrowing, quote unquote, that lovely screenshot of this data set. Again, a very unique feature on the X7 and X9. You can combine a top-level survey workflow with scan data. Now, onto the controversial bit. Reliability. This is actually a very old slide from Mr. Jobs, but Apple had this idea from Alan Kay, which was back in IT, back in the early 50s. He said that people who are really serious about software should make their own hardware, which is why Trimble has a very, very big legacy of making their own controllers to go along with everything. Turtle Station GPS, and now with scanners, they took that lesson onto the scanning world as well. So Trimble makes their own tablets. Why is that important? Because basically that ensures that the software that runs on said tablets has compatibility with the operating system for the whole life cycle of the product, 5, 6, 10 years, whatever it might be. We can support our customers with both the hardware and the software, and we have the IP ratings to match. So both the scanner and the hardware are weatherproof. And this also avoids corruption of data, communication issues, because we're able to support the whole workflow start to finish in terms of communications. I understand this is a bit bold of me, but most of you will be familiar with the laser scanning forum. You don't have to take my word for it, but reliability is important. So you can do a like-for-like comparison directly on these public forums as to how many technical support queries, let's put it this way, you'll get from Trimble side as opposed to other manufacturers. Another thing that was brought my attention is that people see the IP rating. Most of them don't actually understand what it is. This is a third-party video
best IP standard
that I think does a good job explaining what ingress protection means.
Hands. But what exactly does your customer have in store for this device? We know in day-to-day life, people may encounter mist, spills, rain. But how much protection do we really need? And in daily life, we may encounter pollution, pollen, maybe dust.
Cough, cough.
Really? Perhaps your greatest fear, you drop the device in the sink, or a puddle, or even worse.
Yeah. So IP rating, two numbers, one for dust, the other one for water ingress. Whereas the X7 and X9 are actually the only tripod mounted scanners on the market that have an IP rating of 5 for dust and 5 for rain. That means they're protected against water jets as well. Yeah. So the rating chart on the right is a generic rate chart. This comes from the electronics world, so it's applied to basically any electronics that you'll find out there. Which makes me realistically, the more people are using the scanners for topo surveys and construction, you want the scanner to be able to cope with the rigorous of countries where it rains a lot and rains heavily. So there's a rain a lot in the UK and Ireland. I was assured that it does. I actually had a question on this last week. This doesn't mean that the scanners are able to measure in wet surfaces. It means that they're able to work in heavy rain without suffering water ingress, which then can cause expensive servicing and repair, unfortunately. So, but that feature is unique to the X7 and X9, mainly because of the enclosed mirror that they have. What do we do with the data? So we talked about how the X7, our products are the only ones that can output a georeference colorized refined point cloud direct on the tablet. We can actually do something else from the tablet. So imagine that you completed your job, you went over for Mackey's to have a little burger or sandwich, and then you can actually upload live the data from the tablet to our partners in Cintu and share that data in E57s with anyone across the world, any person. So Cintu doesn't have a limit on the number of users on the other side. It doesn't have a limit on the streaming. So you can share as much data with as much people as you want at all times. And that data can also be made available to download anywhere on the world. So you can literally do a job in Manchester, and within an hour's time, the data will be available for anyone in London to download and start working in their preferred office software of choice. Easy. Let me give you one example. So for Cintu, these are examples hosted in Cintu for all of those 3 scanners. And I'm going to stop here the presentation for a few seconds, because Cintu has this amazing feature that actually lets people access those projects just by taking your cameras out and scanning one of those QR codes. You'll get a link in your phones, in your computers, wherever you're watching this webinar from, wherever in the world that you are watching this. I'm going to give you a few seconds. Pick a QR code and see and access the link that it will offer you. Nice and simple way of sharing point cloud data to be investigated, to be worked on in a collaborative fashion. Hopefully this has been enough time. So let's just give you a quick example of how the first link actually, of what you get from a scan position mode from the X7 data on that particular project. But you can see you have the same area scanned with all 3 of our tripod mounted scanners. So you can see the difference of data between all 3 of them. Now, it's always about the field to finish workflow. Here I'm running a few simulations to the best timings of our ability. I'm not considering here the timings in terms of processing power on your machine. I'm not taking into massive considerations. I try to drive back to the office. I'm just working from the information available to us, that if you're considering the field to finish workflow, taking, for example, 5 scans with images at the lowest resolution in minutes. How long does it take to scan, register, colorize, and export a point cloud with the X9 to the point where you have a product that you can then take downstream to the next step in the workflow? If you have a different scanner, you'll still be able to scan, but then you have to make sure that the registration is correct in the office. You need to drive back to the office. You potentially have to fix in the leveling, bring in external control, colorize, and export the data, which effectively will take a bit longer. This particular scanner, obviously it's faster. I appreciate that the latest generation is a lot faster. However, the leveling isn't as great as the previous models, and the increased resolution on the images also makes it longer to colorize the images if you need to do it, and therefore you have more data, then therefore you need to export more. And the question is, are you considering the whole workflow, the time that it costs not only to capture the data, but to process and export the data to a point where you have the a deliverable? Are all of those minutes accounted? And in terms of pounds, how much it actually costs to get at the end product? More than happy for you to accuse me of being biased, but considering these parameters, I would say that the X9 will behave like the Max Verstappen of the motor world, and it will come out on top. Now, this might be new for you guys, but I'm actually talking a bit about pricing and scenarios. So this is actually a little video that I'm running. Customer pricing, indicative customer pricing that I got in there for the products. This is the estimation of the total cost of ownership of those 3 scanners over a 5-year period, which includes, before I play the video, includes Office software for our products as well, because some people like to use RealWorks for that. We actually have customers using a different Office registration software, so we will support whatever the customer wants to do in that regard. And an estimation of how much a weekly cost will hire a scanner, an estimation of how long you're not going to have access to that scanner, and the calibration cost over a 5-year period. So you can see here, if the X7 is 100% of the cost, the X9 will be 30% more expensive, and the other product will be 2.5 times more. If you get rid of calibration costs, which I appreciate a lot of people don't do because they're expensive, and again, the question is, are you really that comfortable having a scanner that doesn't get calibrated every year? How will you know that it's working correctly? When with the X7 and X9, you always know. You always know because it always calibrates in angles and distances every single time you use it. Just between the calibration costs. So you can run a few different scenarios here. And again, just to consider the total cost of ownership over a 5-year period of the scanner and not just the initial investment. And if you get away with not having the Office registration software in our side, because it's really optional for us, then you can see how, as well, a massive difference. But again, it's just to offer you a perspective that the cost of a scanner is just not the initial investment, it's the total cost of ownership for as long as you want to keep that scanner with you. If you are unfortunate to break a scanner, we are the only dealer, the only vendor that's actually able to fix that scanner within the UK and Ireland in our service facilities in both Huntingdon and Dublin, with the X7 and soon the X9, as soon as our technicians have received the appropriate training from Trimble. Also unique to us is our ways of supporting our customers locally, sending their scanners abroad to be fixed. So in short, I'm not going to read all of this, but the X7 and the X9 are the only scanners that cumulatively, I'm going to leave you to read, auto-calibrate, self-level, auto-registration on a fully supported and developed Trimble tablet, able to cope with the rigors of British weather because it rains a lot, the lowest total cost of ownership, can georeference, you can double up as a total station type feature for topo surveys with a laser pointer, and you can actually share by the means of a combination of perspective and scene tube your and point cloud to anyone on the planet at any point in time. And they have the fastest finished workflow. Now, those of you registered for the webinar, you probably noticed that we are doing a bit of an offer here. So not just one offer, we have 2 things on offer. So for everyone that attended the webinar, you will be offered 15% off your first hire of X7 scanner. And for the first 2 customers that populate the quiz, so you can scan that QR code that will take you to an online form. For the first 2 persons that will give us more than 80% of answers correct in that form, they will be offered a week's free of hire of an X7. As I say, that's just for the first 2 customers. That's actually the end of my presentation. That took less time than I was expecting. So hopefully that was okay. At which point, I'll probably ask Ikra to moderate some of the questions for me. If she's there, I will invite her back.
Yeah, I think we've got a few questions. So thank you for the two that did send the questions in. So are you ready, Caesar, for the first question?
Yes.
Okay, does the X7 and the X9 have warranty packages included? Internal issues, repairs with scanners can be seriously expensive, and that's from Roy Smith.
Okay, so yes, the X7 and X9 and the XS12, they actually have an industry standard of 2 years of manufacturer warranty on them. And if you want an extended warranty package where we are including labor and parts, as in like a worry-free contract up to 5-year period, we can, and we have been offering that to our customers. Basically, we will cover everything except, accidental damage. Don't drop anything other than, dropping it off a tripod. But we have that, yes.
Perfect. And Daniel has asked if Cintu, does Cintu come included with the scanner package?
It does not, but we can. It doesn't get included as a standard, but we can hopefully build in an offer that will include Cintu for you. Yes, that's not going to be a problem. As a rule of thumb, the basic package of Cintu, it's on the basic package of Cintu, which you can scale it up. Just give you an idea. It's on the around £100 a month, but in that gives you access to hosting 500 scans with unlimited users, unlimited projects. Obviously, you have to divide the scans by projects, unlimited streaming, unlimited downloads, the ability to do progress monitoring, the ability to do all sorts of different things. But as I said, I'm going to do a standalone webinar with Cintu where I'm going to run the basics of Cintu for sharing and distribution and collaborating point clouds. But yes, if you want Cintu, we can certainly work out the package.
Yeah. And we've got two from John, and he's asked, can it work alongside Sophia Control and the minimum range of the scanners?
Can it work alongside what, sorry?
Sophia Control.
I'm sorry, Grace said it twice. I still couldn't quite hear you. Go on.
Are you able to see the questions?
Let me have a look.
Can it work alongside Sophia Control?
Minimum range is 0.6 meters. That's an easy one. I'm trying to find.
Caesar, I think the question's, can you use spheres?
Yes, in the Office software you can, or in either ours or other manufacturers, you can use spheres with any of our scanners, really. But if the question is, can you use spheres for registration with our tablet on site, I would say that the official answer is improvements happen at all times, and to watch this space. That will be the official answer. Not sure if that wasn't obvious enough. Hold on. Okay. Next one.
I think that's all. Let me have a look at the chat. If you've got any questions, just drop them.
I will say something else. I do appreciate that this presentation was a bit more, let's say, up close and personal than some that have been done in the past. But if there's something that you don't agree with us, or that you want to challenge us on, please give us an opportunity to prove you right. Get in touch with us, set up a meeting face-to-face, and we'll go over whatever questions you might have. You've seen my posts online. I'm more than happy to bring some pastéis de nata at the Portuguese custard tarts and offer you some pizza for lunch while we have those conversations. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Any more?
don't think we've got any more coming up, so I think that is all.
Okay, so if there was any questions, I don't know how about any of the stuff that I've shown. Sorry, I'm just having a look here at the chat window. Seems that Cinto has raised some questions, which is good. Again, Cinto is part of our portfolio because it completes the workflow. It's that, how do we protect our customers' bottom line? Customers, when I say ours, I mean you in that side of the screen, but also your end customers. How do they protect their bottom line in a competitive space by offering a different type of service to the end user? And we believe that Cinto is actually a really nice tool to have in the box to enable people to do just that. Any questions about the quiz or the offers, or if you want a specific package in terms of pricing? Yeah, just ask. You know where to find us. We'll more than happily get back to you on that. Okay.
Yeah, we've got nothing else coming through, so thank you so much everyone for joining, and we'll get back to you on the quiz and see who's won that, and get back to you on the 15% off your first hire for laser scanners. But yeah, thank you so much everyone for joining, and thank you for the excellent webinar.
Okay, thank you all. Take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.